Muy buenas tardes para todas las personas que nos han acompañado a nuestro tercer taller en lengua extranjera, organizado por el Instituto de Idiomas de la Uptc Seccional Sogamoso. En un minuto comenzaremos nuestra transmisión. Muchas gracias. Muy buenas tardes para todos los docentes, estudiantes y administrativos que nos han venido acompañando a nuestro Third National Workshop on Teaching and Learning of Languages. Para mí es un privilegio en esta tarde poder presentarles al doctor Yamith José Fandiño Parra de la Universidad de La Salle, quien nos va a hacer una speech, una conferencia en cuanto al tema ELT Online Teaching Amidst the Global Pandemic, Multimodality and Multiliteracy in Perspective. Dr. Yamith José Fandiño holds a BA in English Philology from the Universidad Nacional de Colombia and an MA in Teaching from the La Salle University. He is also a specialist in virtual learning environments from Virtual Educa Argentina. Currently, he's pursuing his PhD in Education and Society at La Salle University. His research interests range from foreign language learning to teaching education and language policies. At the present, he's working for the School of Education Sciences at La Salle University. So, Doctor, we're very pleased to have you here today with us, and you've got the floor.
Well, so hello everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you some of the things that I am working on here at Universidad de La Salle. Initially, I have to clarify, I'm not a doctor yet. I'm doing my PhD and I'm working on my thesis. Soon I will be a doctor, hopefully. Okay, what I want to talk this afternoon with you, it's based on an academic space that I have in the undergraduate program of foreign languages and Spanish that we have at Universidad La Salle. I have been teaching this academic space for about 4 years now, and I don't consider myself an expert in technology or in multiliteracies or in multimodality, but I do consider myself an enthusiast. And I believe that that is very important when we decide to work on any particular, any topic. So I want you to explore an interactive presentation that I have prepared using Genially. You can have access to that presentation or to the link directly on YouTube so that you can also have a look at what I have prepared, particularly the first two activities. I'm going to start sharing my screen, but I want you in your computers or in your cell phones to please also open the presentation. I was told that you have access to it, so just let me know if that is the case. People are going to be helping me out to know that, yes, everybody has the link and that you, in your computers or in your cell phones, you can check the presentation online and do some exercises that I want you to do with me, particularly in the first part. So I'm going to stop here for maybe some seconds to check that the link is up and that you can have access to it. I don't know who can confirm that to me. Yes, Daniel? Is the link of the presentation up?
Yeah, the link is over there in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start. Thank you so much. So people can just click on it and start on their computers and or their cell phones they can explore the presentation on their own. Perfect. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay. I imagine you're looking at the presentation on YouTube. So okay. So I guess everybody has this image. I'm going to start. I was invited to talk about the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic in the teaching and learning of English. And I thought the invitation was very relevant in my case because as a professor at a university, I have faced lots of challenges, but at the same time, opportunities. And that is precisely what I want to talk about this afternoon. The pandemic, no doubt, has impacted our lives, our families, our societies. But at the same time, it has given us opportunities to transform what we do. And I know that sometimes the difficulties seem so big that we don't get to see the opportunities. I hope by the end of this talk, you can see that, yes, there are difficulties, challenges, but at the same time, there are opportunities, alternatives. I decided to give this title to my presentation, ELT Online Teaching Amidst the Global Pandemic, Multimodality and Multiliteracies in Perspective. Our agenda, the context, basically four important ideas. The fact that all of us are becoming e-teachers one way or another. The pandemic has pushed us into that direction, becoming e-teachers. I will talk about that topic. Then, and I will talk about that topic in terms of the difficulties and the challenges. Then I will talk about multimodality and ELT. And I want us to see multimodality as an opportunity, as an alternative. And finally, I will very quickly go over multiliteracies pedagogy as a way to balance the difficulties, the challenges, and the possibilities, the alternatives. Finally, I will cover some conclusions, and I will give some recommendations. And of course, that you will have access to the references. Okay, so let's start. First, I want us to do an exercise, an interactive activity. On your screen, you can see a quote that I took from Mora, a Colombian author, who in the year 2014 wrote a very powerful and moving paper. From that paper, on page 121, I am taking this quote. So what I would like you to do is to have a look at the quote, to read about it, to reflect about it, and then I will invite you to do an interactive activity. Okay, so let's first focus on the quote, and then I will talk a little bit about the interactive activity that I would like all of you to help me with. In the year 2014, Mora writes, as I said, a very powerful and very interesting paper. And on page 121, he writes the following. We must interrogate what kind of activities we are promoting when it comes to English and technology. The use of blogging, wikis, mobile technologies, or WebQuest, when applied to English language learning and teaching, provide plenty of spaces for language users to expand their language limits. These forms, with their participatory nature, engage students and invite them to produce texts that matter. This engagement also invites teachers and students alike to see English language learning as more complex relationship where the language is a means to link our worlds with those of others all over the world. Well, so as you can realize, this quote is pretty powerful, pretty interesting in terms of the role of technology in English language teaching. Now, after reading these quotes, I would like you, using your computers, using your cell phones, your tablets, or any device that you have near you, I would like you to go to www.menti.com. When you go to that place, on that website, www.menti.com, the website will ask that you provide a code The code is the number 7912 5263. I repeat the number, 7912 5263. You're looking at the number on your screens if you are looking at the presentation, so it will be better. It will be easier for you. When you register that code, the website will take you to a new screen and it will ask of you to write 3 words. So I'm going to give you some seconds, maybe 1 minute, to do this exercise. I repeat, go to www.menti.com, use the code 79125263, and when you write that code, you will be asked to write 3 words. Those 3 words in connection with the quote by Mora in the year 2014. Okay, so I'm going to stop here talking. I will give you some time to go to the website and to try to do the activity. And then I will share the results with you. Okay, perfect. The activity will generate a word cloud that I'm going to share with you as soon as we have more answers. Okay, maybe 10 more seconds, 15 maximum, and then I'm going to share the results. Okay, so let's have a look at the word cloud that all of us together are generating after reading this quote by Mora. Okay, so let me go to let's hope it opens. Okay, no, that's another one. Okay, here. So let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So here you have an exercise using this website, menti.com, and you're noticing that we have word cloud, different concepts that you have decided to share with us, but particularly there are some big words in the middle of it: innovation, communication, learning, opportunities, tools, future. So this shows us that collectively, those are the concepts that appear the most. Obviously, there are other concepts that correspond to our own personal interests, but collectively we have innovation, communication, learning, opportunities, tools, future, apps. Well, this is just an example of things that we can do online with technology. And it reflects what we as teachers, as a group of teachers, feel after reading Mora's quote. And definitely, it is not a surprise that innovation, communication, learning, opportunities are present because as Mora describes in his powerful article and paper, definitely technology gives us possibilities that before we didn't have, we didn't used to have in our classes. It required from us training, education, discussion, reflection, as everything that we do in our classes. It has challenges and difficulties, no doubt, but it's also a space and a time for opportunities and alternatives. But don't trust me. Let's listen to an expert that I'm sure you have read her papers, you have maybe read her books, or maybe you have even watched her on seminars, webinars, etc. The next activity, so I started with a Colombian author. Now I want to complement this perspective from a Colombian author with Nikki Huckley. And again, if you're already watching the presentation online in your computers, in your cell phones, you have access to this video. All you have to do is click over the icon where you have what I'm trying to point out here, and it will take you to a very short video where Nikki Hockley, Director of Pedagogy for the consultants eTalks, she talks about how EFL teachers should use learning technologies in their classrooms. But there is a little twist to the activity. I don't want you to simply go and watch the video and that's it. No, we're going to use a puzzle. And the idea is that you will do this activity, you will do this viewing as a multiple choice video activity. I mean, while watching the video, you will be asked 3 questions with multiple choices. The idea is that based on what you understand, you try to answer the questions. I will give you 2 minutes to do this activity, this interactive activity, using this video in which we have the opportunity of listening to and sharing with Professor Nikki Hockley. Again, I repeat, all you have to do is click on the icon, and in your computers, in your cell phones, it will take you to a new window where you will be able to do the online activity. So I will give you 2 minutes and a half to do this activity, starting now. When, just in case that you don't know how to use that puzzle, all you have to do is play on the video, and it will show you the questions in different moments of the video. Just play on the video, watch the video, and the questions will appear. Okay, time is almost up. Okay, so we have the um, 3 multiple choice questions. The first one was, what determines the consistent or occasional use of technology by EFL teachers according to our expert? The second question was, how should EFL teachers get their students used to using technologies? And finally, what kind of questions should EFL teachers ask when thinking about using technology in their classes? And if you think about your own professional context, these are situations that all of us wonder when we decide to start integrating technology into what we do, into our teaching, into the learning routines. Now, as you could listen, Nikki Hockley recommends doing it gradually, slowly, in such a way that it helps you better teach your classes. Unfortunately, and also fortunately, as you're going to see, the pandemic, COVID-19, changed our classes drastically. And we couldn't really live the experience in a gradual, slow, careful way. Most of us were sent into teaching English online using whatever resource we could find, cell phones, computers. Some teachers have worked or used radio, etc., etc. And some teachers are doing their best to provide their students with worksheets that they can work at home and then bring into the class or into the school when the teacher is available to check them. Now, that sounds like a nightmare. Experts recommend, they do say that technology gives us opportunities, possibilities, that is fascinating. Nikki Hockley recommends doing it in a slow, gradual way. That was not our case. Historically, we belong to a very particular moment connected to a pandemic, to COVID-19, and the challenges and opportunities that this pandemic has brought. The first challenge and the first difficulty is that all of us, because of different factors, circumstances, and reasons, we became and are becoming e-teachers, with everything that implies, with everything that means. I'm sure you're familiar with this framework by UNESCO, a framework that has been around for 10, 15 years now. The idea here is that teachers are expected to move gradually and carefully through 3 levels or through 3 moments that UNESCO calls technology literacy, knowledge deepening, knowledge creation. Because of time, I'm just going to focus on ICT. In technology literacy, it means that we should know some basic tools, knowledge deepening, more complex or elaborate tools, and knowledge creation, pervasive tools. Now, we know as teachers that it is important to be well-trained, as Anas and Mundara in the year 2018 explained. It is important that teachers are well-trained and familiar with the high-end technologies so that they can integrate ICT tools and the pedagogical aspects connected to those ICT tools into their own teaching. Most ESL and EFL teachers lack necessary competence to work on such integration and could not move beyond their comfort zone. This was something written in the year 2018. In the year 2021, all of us were forced to leave these three levels and dimensions automatically without much preparation. And it is a testament to our effort, our love for this profession and for our students, that we are doing the best we can do. But becoming an e-teacher requires from us the development of different roles. Some of them that we are familiar with how to do those roles in face-to-face interaction. But when online teaching appears, when the use of platforms are present, we might not feel that confident, that ready. What are some of those roles? You have a list provided also by Anas and Mustara in 2018. We become content facilitators. It means that we are supposed to find ebooks, digital images, videos, audio files, podcasts, blogs, wikis. We are also supposed to become resource providers. We should give our students a variety of sources, of course, off-print materials and digital resources. We also are expected to become metacognition facilitators. We are expected to help our students reflect, draw conclusions, receive feedback when technology is present in their learning processes and practices. We are also expected to become process facilitators to help the students reach their learning goals. We are expected to become technologists, to know what are the best or the most appropriate ICT tools or ICT for language learning. We are expected to become counselors, assessors, designers, managers, and administrators. Each of those roles with specific activities and behaviors. When you look at all of this, all of these roles, we are comfortable with them in face-to-face interaction. The pandemic and online teaching has a different dynamics. And I'm sure all of us, teachers in high schools, primary schools, professors at universities, will all have lived how stressing and how frustrating sometimes these roles are when we become e-teachers and when we are working online. Now, together with these roles that we're supposed to acquire, develop, we're also, as teachers, we're also supposed to acquire a set of digital literacies. You can interpret this chart from two perspectives, vertically or horizontally. Vertically, it means that we are supposed to acquire print literacy, texting literacy, hypertext literacy, multimedia literacy, gaming literacy, mobile literacy, code literacy. And those four literacies represent the literacies that are connected to a first focus that has to do with language. And it's how language takes place in online teaching. But notice that there is another set of literacies that represent another level, that is information, tagging literacy, search literacy, information literacy, filtering literacy. And after that, we have another level or another dimension that is about connections, personal literacy, network literacy, participatory literacy, intercultural literacy. And at the end, we're supposed to redesign, to be able to create a macro literacy No surprise then that many teachers are stressed, frustrated, afraid, insecure, etc. Because together with the roles that we're supposed to acquire and develop, now we are also trying to develop a set of digital literacies. And again, we're not doing this in a gradual, slow, consistent process. Because of the pandemic, all of us are living different challenges and difficulties with roles and digital literacies. Now, and because this is so complex and so integrate, we authors talk about the importance of generating a development framework that should be the basis of what happens in undergraduate programs, and also a development framework that should be the basis of what happens in graduate programs. And as well as what this framework should be a reference to what happens in ongoing professional development. And this is a framework proposed for ESL, EFL teachers. And it's that if you want to become an e-teacher, there are different areas that you're expected to develop. Because of time, I will not focus on every single one, but as you already have the link, you might explore them, or you can go to the reference that I'm using in this particular part, a paper written in the year 2018. One of those areas has to do with the importance that we teachers, when we become e-teachers, we need to develop what is called the teacher technology competence. That is different from, for example, the teacher's digital literacy, and is different from the web-based technology skills. So every single aspect, they are all together, but each aspect represents a different set of knowledge, abilities, and attitudes. This sounds and looks beautiful as an image, and when you read about this in papers and in books. But now I'm sure that most of us have had moments where we want to go back to our classes with our students in our classrooms. We miss that. We miss those spaces. And we miss that not only because we miss having our students next to us, but also because we are comfortable, we are familiar, we are in control, we are more knowledgeable about what happens in face-to-face interaction. The pandemic has, as I said before, pushed us into an area or a zone out of our zone of comfort. And we are struggling. Some teachers are doing the best they can do. And on top of all of these, the roles, the literacies, they do not have the resources. They do not have, and their students don't have those resources either. So I understand when teachers complain, when teachers feel frustrated, lost. All of these represent difficulties, challenges that we need to overcome, and that we are trying to work out in different ways. Now, although I understand that the pandemic and online teaching represents a different set of difficulties and challenges, I also consider that this is an opportunity, an alternative to explore two topics that I would like to share with you this afternoon. The first topic is multimodality, and the second topic is multiliteracies. To introduce multimodality, I would like you to explore this trailer. In this trailer, you can have a look at Loving Vincent, the world's first fully oil-painted feature film. It brings the artwork of Vincent van Gogh to life in an exploration of the complicated life and controversial death of one of history's most celebrated artists. By watching this trailer, I believe you're going to have a taste of multimodality. What you have to do is very simple. In your computers, in your cell phones, in your tablets, all you have to do is click on the link and it will take you to the trailer. So that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to watch it, I hope, without any interruption together. Okay, so when I am with my students at La Salle University and I'm teaching the academic space that I told you at the beginning, that it was the opportunity for me as a university professor to start reflecting about technology, online teaching, multimodality, multiliteracies. I always find this powerful trailer very moving and at the same time an excellent example of what multimodality is all about. Because of time, I will not talk much about this topic. I will just give some general ideas as a way to invite you to see multimodality as an alternative, as an opportunity. We have already talked about the challenges and the difficulties of working and teaching in online settings, in online classes, but I also want to point out the possibilities. Multimodality is one of them. Bizimir and Jewitt in the year 2018 describe multimodality in a way that I find simple and clear. They say, we can formulate 3 key premises of multimodality. 1, meaning is made with different semiotic resources, each offering distinct potentialities and limitations. 2, meaning making involves the production of multimodal wholes, units. 3, if we want to study meaning, we need to attend to all semiotic resources being used to make a complete whole, a complete unit. And I believe this is a powerful quote and a powerful way of understanding multimodality, because as teachers, as language teachers, particularly as EFL teachers, our job is not to simply continue working with the concept of communicative competence or intercultural communicative competence, but our challenge, or our opportunity better, our alternative, is to work with multimodal communicative competence. And it's how, as EFL teachers, we open ourselves, our classes, our resources, to different semiotic resources, to the production of multimodal wholes. Here I'm going to give you some examples of multimodality and things that as teachers, EFL teachers, we can do to start exploring multimodality as an alternative, as a possibility in our classes. We obviously focus quite a lot on oral meanings. So we have live or recorded speeches in our classes. We listen to oral meanings. We talk about ourselves. We rehearse intended speech. That's something that we normally do in our classes. That's not new. We might work with audio files also, and we might be aware with noises, sounds, hearing, listening. But notice that there is an area of meanings that maybe we don't explore as much as we could or as we should. Gestural meanings, movements of the body, hands, arms, expressions of the face, eye movement, clothing, fashion, hairstyle, tactile meanings, touch, smell, taste, skin sensation, aromas, etc. Spatial meaning, the idea of creating a space, ways of moving around in space, positioning yourself in relation to texts, visual meanings, and everything we can work with still or moving images, and written meaning, something that we also do quite a lot in our classes, reading and writing. But unfortunately, when we work with written meaning, we focus on print materials, and we forget that there are other possibilities of written meanings to explore. Okay, the New London Group in 2002, thinking about multimodality, the different kinds of meanings that we have, proposed every single teacher, this is not only for EFL teachers, but teachers in general, they propose some new elements that our students. They want us and they invite us to think about modes of meaning, and according to that, different designs. Because of time, again, I'm going to focus on visual design, the one that you can find to the left, but I will invite you to explore all the other modes of meaning that are explained. In visual design, the New London Group will invite teachers to think about how we generate meaning through colors, perspectives, vectors, foregrounding, and backgrounding. And again, this means that as EFL teachers, we should not simply go into our classes and use flashcards or posters and ask questions about what's this, what's that, what are they doing? That's okay, but it's not enough if we start thinking about meaning making. Colors, perspectives, foreground, background are other elements that we should incorporate when working with visuals. And the same will happen with audio design, spatial design, linguistic design, gestural design. But how can we, as EFL teachers, with everything that we have to do now, also start incorporating multimodality? Barton and McAllister-Vizek in the year 2018, they suggest some elements, some ideas. The first one is that they say that we teachers should become aware of how to approach the different modes. Example, if I will focus on visual and image, how to approach the different types of lines, colors, shapes, lights, framing, texture, tone. And the same will happen if I open myself, as a teacher, I open myself, my classes, my resources, to exploring, for example, gestural or embodiment, sound or oral, spatial, etc. So the first idea or tip that they propose is become familiar with the elements of those new modes. They also suggest that as teachers, we open ourselves to new possibilities, to new kind of texts, infographics, newscasts, comics, visual note-taking, animations, book trailers or movie trailers, brochures, mind maps, posters, videos, screencasts, text messages, blogging. So what they're saying is, as you can see, expand. What we should do is expand our teaching repertoire. So the first invitation, if you think that multimodality truly is an alternative, a possibility, is to expand your teaching repertoire. Next, if you decide to take this a little bit more seriously, you might use the multimodality cycle by Lin, 2015. Interesting. This author basically, thinking about our job as teachers when we teach English, this author will invite us to use multimodalities in our classes: visuals, images, YouTube videos, diagrams, inquiry discovery activities, experiments, so that we will move into a cycle of creating a rich experiential context first. Next, go into engaging students in reading and note-taking, so we can have students generate graphic organizers, mind maps, comics, bilingual notes. The idea here is to help the students work with L2, L1, translanguaging is also involved. And after creating a rich experiential context and engaging students in reading and write and note-making, engage students in what this author calls contextualizing the experience. In other words, representing the experience in a new text, in a different kind of text. And the idea is to invite our students to work with different genres, to experiment with designs, to open themselves and ourselves, not only to focus with the typical kind of texts and genres that we have in our classes, in our curriculum, but explore other possibilities. So we started by expanding or enriching our teaching repertoire. Another possibility, exploring or using the multimodality cycle proposed by Lin in 2015. Here you have an example by Maureen Walsh in 2010, where in a class she decided to work with multimodal practices, combining print texts and digital texts. And in this is just an example of what she explains in her paper. I really invite you to read the paper. It's fascinating the way she describes what she did with her students. You will notice, for instance, that when thinking about talking and listening, she started with oral descriptions, discussions, oral discussions, and then she started incorporating digital text. For example, the use of digital photography. For example, the use of blogs. For example, the use of PowerPoint presentations, video presentations. Obviously, the digital text will depend on you, your students, your school, your circumstances. You might have difficulties, for example, exploring digital photography, but maybe you might work with PowerPoint presentations. The digital text will depend on you, your context, your circumstances. Okay, here you have another example. Because of time, I will just suggest that you have a look at how Walsh in 2010 worked with writing. Okay, time is almost upon us, and I wanna work with, or I wanna approach multiliteracies very quickly. Here you have a video in which we can listen to Calancis and Cope, part of the New London group, and some authors that you need to read if you are interested in multiliteracies and multimodality. In this video, that I'm going to skip because time is almost upon us, I will invite, they basically present multiliteracies as a new pedagogy. And they say multiliteracies is a pedagogy, is a way of teaching, is a way of learning based on multimodal meaning-making. So for them, multiliteracies require from us a new understanding of our job as teachers and a new understanding of the role of students and the impact of multimodal mini-making that is happening thanks to technology. To show you this very quickly, Sami in the year 2013 explains that in the 20th century and part of the 21st century, we were still very based on the idea of traditional literacy, which focuses on reading and writing print materials. But it's not a surprise that there are new literacies that as teachers, as students, as citizens of the world, we need to acquire and develop. You have a long list of literacies moving from computer literacy, game literacy, media literacy, multimedia literacy, visual literacy, etc. What I want to show you with this is the importance of changing also the way we teach and the way we understand learning and how we comprehend technology. This means, according to the New London Group, that language should be understood as design of meaning. In other words, it's a transformative process in which we create meaning, but at the same time, we become part of meaning, the interpretation of meaning. To understand how language takes place as design meaning, they talk about three aspects: available designs, designing, and the redesign. To them, available designs are any meaning-making resource that we have available in our lives, in our contexts. They can be linguistic, visual, audio, gestural, spatial, etc. It's anything that we have in our communicative ecosystem that we can use. Designing is the process of making use of those alternatives or those available designs to make meaning. And the redesign is a transformed representation of the alternatives that we have from a particular experience of designing. So what the New London Group basically are trying to say is, we generate meaning. Language is meaning making. When we move from available designs into designing, into the redesign. And if this is true, that as teachers we should move into this new perspective, then finally, this is what I'm going to finish with, multiliteracies pedagogy is necessary. And it's what are the new elements or what are the new concepts that we should integrate into our learning, into our classes. So Calansis and Cope in the year 2005 talk about 4 processes of knowledge, of meaning creation: experiencing, conceptualizing, analyzing, and applying. And the New London Group proposed situated practice, other instruction, critical framing, transform practice. The two complement each other very well. In case that you want to read a little bit more about this, I suggest you click on this icon to explore another image that will explain this a little bit better. Calansis and Cope. Okay, Calansis and Cope also talk about some general questions that we can use with our students when analyzing different kinds of texts. You have the presentation, you can explore these questions and maybe analyze if they are relevant or not in your classes. Some conclusions to wrap up. The first conclusion that I think the pandemic brought us is we are mini makers. We are not level 1, B2. We are not only communicators. That is also important, of course. But I think a possibility, an alternative is to realize that we're mini makers, and that because we're mini makers, we should be semiotically resourceful. This is the first conclusion. The second conclusion would be that language is not only communicative competence, but language is how we integrate different modes, different types of texts. Conclusion number 3, a multimodal and a multiliteracy approach to language teaching is important. And I invite you to see the possibilities, the alternatives of these approaches. Finally, Colombian EFL teachers, we need to explore mini-making across different modes, media, social domains, and also we need to advance about our own understanding about what are modes, what modes are, what modalities are, what multiliteracy is all about, and mini-making. To give you some recommendations, and I will finish with this, I invite you to explore the author website. It's a website where you can have access to Calansis and COP, different papers, videos. It's a very complete website. I recommend for those of you who are interested to explore it. But we also have Colombian authors. In Colombia, I really admire Raúl Alberto Mora and all the fascinating work that he has done. So I really invite you to go to academia, to explore the different papers that he has published in Medellín, and Professor José Aldemar Álvarez in Universidad del Valle. These two professors are professors that I follow, that I read, and that I find their work interesting and fascinating. Two suggestions for you to start maybe exploring on your own. This first link, where you are going to find ideas on how to generate multimodal text with students in primary and secondary classes. This is a website created by Anne-Marie O'Brien. Very practical, very interesting, lots of ideas. And finally, one website about multimodal literacy with more information about meta language, the creation of multimodal text, examples, etc. To finish, you have the references. And as I started this talk, I understand the pandemic has brought us huge challenges and difficulties, but I would like also to point out that it has given us the opportunity to live multimodality, multiliteracies, and becoming e-teachers. The opportunity is there for us to make the best of it. And thank you so much. This was Yamith José Fandiño, and this was my presentation, my talk.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Fandiño, for this enlightening presentation. That is really, really important to consider technologies. Nowadays, it is a very trendy topic, certainly. So we have some questions from the audience, and I guess that I'm going to read only two of them. The first one is by Sulma Barreto. I would like to start using the multimodality in my classes. Can you recommend any websites, pages to learn more about it?
Sulma, thank you for your kind question. At the end of the presentation, I recommended Calansis and COP website. I think you're going to find lots of theory and lots of good examples. I also recommend it to Colombian authors. However, since you seem to be more interested in multimodality from a practical part, maybe the last two options are the places to start. If I were you, I would start with Anne-Marie O'Brien, because I have found her work very simple, very clear, very basic, and very close to what we normally do in schools and universities.
Okay, thank you. A second question would be by Kevin Lopez. Could you please provide examples, point of divergence and convergence between multimodality and multiliteracies?
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin, for your question. Multimodality is being aware of the multiple ways that we human beings have of making meaning, of producing meaning, of receiving meaning. And multiliteracies is an invitation to change teaching and learning as a reflection of that new understanding of the diversity of meaning-making possibilities that we have. In other words, multimodality has to do with the context, with the real life that we have as human beings and our multimodal world. And multiliteracies would be our approach as teachers, as educators, as schools, institutes, universities, to answer the question of how to use multimodal text in our classes to the advantage of our students and to obviously our own advantage. At least that's the way I see it.
Okay, Professor Fandiño, it was a pleasure for us to have you here today with us in this activity. And we're very happy to have heard all this about this topic that is very important in our language practices. So thank you very much.
You're
And
welcome.
everybody is invited to continue with us in the next concurrent sessions and activities that we have for you today. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.